Welcome into another edition of the Sports Edge Podcast. I'm your host and Commissioner Dan Stanzik. Thrilled to be reunited with two-time SCFFL champ Justin the Guru Eisner. Guru, it's been a minute. How are we doing tonight?
I know, it's good to be back. Good to see your face. Excited to get back together on this. I'm doing good.
I know. Well, we have plenty to cover tonight, including some trade regrets of ours. But first, let's recap the Week 6 action. We'll start with the one that hits home the most. Tyler Conklin. Screw that guy. Failed to score 3.8 points on Monday night. Sal Checho's Memorial All-Stars hung on against the Commish. If you were running the Stanziks, how would you handle this Christian McCaffrey situation? As we know, scratched late Week 1 Monday night. Hasn't played since. No good updates. So if you're running the Stanziks, would you wait patiently for McCaffrey to come back, even though you have no indication when that's going to be? Would you casually survey the running back market, or would you aggressively target a running back and kind of perhaps overpay? Or a fourth option. Those are three options that I've pigeonholed myself into. But if you have a fourth option, that's on the table as well.
No fourth option for me. I would wait patiently. I think that can be done hand in hand with casually surveying the running back market. I think it's just hard to trade for a running back right now. I know, as somebody who's got a couple, and I don't want to give any of them up. So I don't see that happening. But I looked at your team, Stanzik, and I feel like, look, if and when McCaffrey comes back, right, Javante's looked better. Wasn't necessarily a great week, but I think he's looking better. Because I mean, the Chargers defense has been sneaky good, by the way. So I wouldn't freak out about this week. Mixon looks good.
Yeah, welcome back. I was hanging on by a thread without him. A lot of Cam Akers in the lineup for me.
And I think if there's ever anything from Jonathan Brooks, I think there's something brewing here. I think you got to just hold on for dear life and hope you're in the playoff race. I think that's the plan.
We have been holding on. We are 3-3, a tough loss this week that may force the front office to reconsider things. On brighter news for you anyway, your Man Rockets blasted past half 112-95, which puts the Sun God's Disciples at 1-5. So if you're Hath, what do you do? Are you blowing up the roster? Are you selling off as many pieces as possible? Or do you just chalk this up? Bad year. Don't overreact. Do some, small things around the edges and kind of focus ahead to next year.
Yeah. Boring answer for me, maybe, but I think it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think I'd blow the whole thing up, but I would like to see him maybe make a trade for some picks. So I mentioned either one of these kind of fringe RB1s he has. So I think, kind of playing off your question about yourself, Stanzik, there's some fringe RB1 guys that maybe someone in the race would want and maybe overpay for. So that could be an interesting move. Or maybe he's got a lot of wide receiver ones. Take one of those, bite the bullet in trading one of those, and try to stockpile picks and go, make a bunch of acquisitions and try to make a bunch of dart throws with rookies. I'll say this though, the other thing with Hathaway's team, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. He picked the wrong quarterback again. So that's another option for a somewhere in the middle tweak is do you take one of those quarterbacks and trade them and try to get assets that way? So I wouldn't
maybe take one of the quarterbacks with one of those wide receiver ones and trade for a surefire quarterback, and then you don't have the quarterback question lingering anymore.
I think,
and you can kind of build from there.
Something in the middle there. Make one big move. Settle for the fact that you're not going to go for it this year, but also don't blow the whole nucleus up. But if you just stand pat, I think you're asking for it. That's not the right play.
Hi, interesting. Moving on, the champ handled business against Hoban by 15 points. He's now won 3 straight. Do you owe Zans an apology for anything? It's been a while, Guru. You said some things you might regret. Might be time. I don't know.
2024, is this the season of apologies? I mean, the answer is yes. Stanzik, I don't know if you know this. I don't think we've talked about this, but every other Wednesday, I'm actually not coming here from sports. I'm coming here from sacramental preparation. My oldest son is going through the sacrament of reconciliation.
I didn't know this. Wow.
Yeah.
What a revelation.
And so I hope for forgiveness. And with that, I should let my friend John know that I've wronged him in my thoughts and in my words, in what I've done and in what I've failed to do, through my most grievous fault. Therefore, I ask the Blessed Mary, ever Virgin, all the angels and saints, and you, my brothers and sisters, to pray for me to the Lord our God. And I hope that as my fellow Mets and Jets fan affiliate, John will accept that apology. And I was wrong.
As someone who went to Catholic school his entire life, I knew what you were doing early on there before you got to some pretty obvious religious readings that you're doing there. Well done for apologizing for his team. Would you also like to apologize for calling his college girlfriend Kate McGann hot or not?
Hot but not, to be clear.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. No, I stand by that. And to be fair, I don't know that I made that nickname up, but I think it stands. I think it's right.
All right, moving on. Walsh almost doubled up Robbie in what was a battle for the top spot in the standings, and that is back-to-back weekly highs for Walsh. The 168 points scored is the high water mark for the league this season, which begs the question, is Walsh now the favorite to win the league?
He might be. That was the first sentence I wrote down here as I thought about this. He just might be.
He might be is your answer to is he the favorite? No,
This
you don't
this
sound
team,
convinced.
this team's loaded. By the way, they still have games left against the bottom three teams in the league, so that feels like 100% playoff lock, right? That's going to get him to 8 wins if he just beats those teams. I was struggling to find a hole on this team. Obviously, I think Love needs to stay healthy. God forbid he gets hurt again. I think that could be tough. It'll be interesting to see how the Devontae Adams trade impacts Garrett Wilson. But like and also if Keenan Allen can stay healthy, how does that impact DJ Moore? But even so, like he has Godwin, he has Worthy. Um, yeah, he probably needs to figure out who his go-to tight end is. Maybe he trades for one, but there's not many holes here. This looks like a really, really good team and a legitimate title contender.
It kind of feels like him or Zans, right? Like Robbie's kind of
Yeah.
faded. It seems like it's one of those two right now, at least.
I think there's some dark horses, but I mean he's in the like you said, he's in the 1 to 3.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Last game on the week 6 slate, a revenge game for Zay Flowers. He scored 17.9 points, led Pete past his former team, Walk This Way, which is managed by pod nemesis Steve Curtis. I didn't catch this until today, Guru, as I was preparing for this podcast. You know, a lot of preparation goes into this. But did you notice that Pete benched Josh Allen for Dak Prescott?
No, I didn't notice
Until
it.
I'm saying this right now. Oh, I guess I sent this question to you. So
Oh
maybe
yeah, yeah. I noticed it when you sent the
maybe you noticed
question.
it once I sent it to you. Yeah. So Pete got the win, but he is also getting, we're not even doing the segment, but we are giving Pete the Dud of the Week award. Dak scored 3 fantasy points. Josh Allen scored 28. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. hadn't gotten hurt, Steve probably wins that matchup, and we would have led this podcast with Pete's boneheaded move. We say this all the time. You don't bench your guys. He is the guy of all guys, right?
I mean he pulled a Curtis. It didn't pan out, but like he tried his best. Here's my
The
problem.
same thing happened to Steve earlier this year. I forget the terrible decision he made, but the same thing happened to Steve. He had a boneheaded
Yeah,
move and still got the win, right?
right, right. Now, here's what I don't understand with this move. It's not like Dak had a good matchup.
I know
He
he's
was
playing the
playing the
Lions.
Lions. So like you can't even throw that,
The
like,
only thing I'm going to say, Pete Allen, like you, like Zant, he's a Jets fan. So
that I did write that down. I did write
Josh
that
Allen
down. But I
playing
guess
Monday
he didn't
night
want to play
against
him
the
against the
Jets
Jets. That's
had, coming off a bad week, but
yeah.
still.
That's not, I don't care. You just, that's one of those, Ronco Showtime Kitchen, set it and forget it, right? You just set it
Yeah.
and walk away. You don't even look at it and you just don't root for it. And whatever happens, happens. But that's not inexcusable.
Well, Pete, congratulations on the win. Congratulations on the Dud of the Week award. But speaking of Curtis, he actually pitched a segment idea to me via text this week. He is already regretting his trade with Pete from earlier this year, where he gave up Ramondre Stevenson and Zay Flowers for a measly second-round pick in next year's draft, or as Hoban calls it, a 12th-round pick in next year's draft. So he was asking if the two of us, or I guess league-wide, maybe everybody has some trades that they regret. So I asked you to prepare a top 3 of trades you regret. Now, in our pre-show meeting, the much talked about pre-show meeting, you told me you could only come up with 2.
Yeah.
How generous of you. So I will start with my number 3, and I will go 3, 2, 1, and you can just come in with your 2 and 1.
Gotcha.
So the number 3 trade that I regret the most, I guess we're doing it that way. Last year, I traded Curtis, of all people. I traded him Jamar Chase, Kyron Williams for Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Waddle, and a first-round pick swap, which favored me. Since that trade, Mahomes has not scored 25 or more points in a game. Derek Carr has done so 5 times. Baker Mayfield has done it 4 times this year alone. While I miss Kyron Williams tremendously, he's my favorite Notre Dame running back of all time, I can't really quibble with that part of the deal because I was able to turn Waddle into 2 firsts, which I then turned into Malik Neighbors and Jonathan Brooks. So I can't complain too much about that part of the deal. But the fact that Mahomes has been dreadful since I traded for him and I had to give up Jamar Chase and Kyron Williams to do it, number 3 on my list.
Yeah,
I think you liked that trade in my favor at the time, and
I did.
it has not aged nicely for me.
Yeah, I did, but I did also at one point, I think it was last season, talk about like kind of like a blind resume thing where I went through how few times Patrick Mahomes was like really overperforming, right? Or performing at the level that we expect. And that has really played out. I mean,
Yeah,
he has not been a great fantasy quarterback since that trade.
not
Or since,
good, not good for me.
yeah.
Well, number two on your regret list. What do you got?
Ooh, I mean, these are close. I'm debating which one is two and which one is one. I mentioned this to you also in the pre-show meeting. I didn't make a lot of trades, although you corrected me to say that not all of them went through the system.
Correct.
So there may be some that I forget
I
here.
did some digging. A lot of the off-season trades don't happen on the site; they happen just via email. So
Yeah,
I'll
I
either get a
think
text from both managers and an email from someone, then I'll email that to the entire league. So I had to do some digging to create my own list.
yeah. Well, I'll go with this one. I'll go with back into 2020. Trade with the Commish.
Wow.
I traded Deonta Freeman
Oh, I
for
remember this trade.
J.K. Dobbins. Now,
Yeah.
the reason I'm
Panic
going to
move
write
by
this,
you.
yeah, I'm going to write this two and not one, only because you didn't, and I don't know that I would have either, like kept J.K. through all of this to now get the output he's getting today, but
Yeah.
just on
Steve
paper,
kept him for a long time and then cut him ahead of this year.
right, right, and Walsh is reaping the benefits there,
Yeah.
but that's just not good, not
So
good.
I traded you Foreman. You traded me JK.
Yeah, Freeman.
Oh, Devonta Freeman, who was on the Giants at the time, if I remember,
Right.
because Saquon was
Right.
hurt.
He was like this, right? He was starting.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it was a now versus future move for me. I was
Yeah.
thinking of running back that was going to get some touches and give up. I think Toppins was even hurt at that point,
Yeah.
playing, but short term, long term
Not
regret.
yeah, not your finest hour on that one. Number 2 for me, we're gonna go to the 2022 preseason where I acquired CD Lamb from Hath and what I thought was an absolute steal at the time. I gave up. Are you ready for this? Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I was fading hard after his rookie year. I'm like, this is not a thing. This guy stinks. So I gave him Amon-Ra St. Brown. I gave him Joe Burrow in that deal. And I also gave him a second round pick, 19th overall. That pick turned out to be Chris Olave.
Wow.
Not good by me. And now, of course, you're thinking like you got CD Lamb in this deal. You made out, fairly well. CD Lamb, who of course has now blossomed into this top 3 player overall, was not the CD Lamb that he is now. It was only after I traded him back to Hathaway in the famous Justin Jefferson McCaffrey for CD Lamb and ETN swap that CD Lamb kind of rose to where he is now. So looking back at that one, that was an email when I look back to it. I said, yikes.
That was tough. That's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
even if he was at that level at that time, that's Olave and St. Brown for CeeDee Lamb, even at the current status. That's still
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
That's still
That's
tough.
and Burrow. I have a theme where I'm giving up quarterbacks like they're nothing. One trade that did make the list, we can talk about as we get going here. But what is I guess we're on to number 1 for you because you only
Number
had 2
one.
bad
Yeah,
trades in
number
your
one.
estimation.
Now, here's what's interesting. I only had two, and again, partly because maybe I don't have all of my trades on the system. I wasn't able to sync with you ahead of time, but both with the commish.
Wow.
Number one is with the commish too. Now, I was going to live reject the trade offer you made me.
Oh, I already
Already
pulled it
pulled it.
down. I
Good.
pulled it down. I'll set the record straight here. I am already sending out trade offers in the running back market, which we discussed. You said I shouldn't do it, but I've already been doing it. But I was floating Rashid Shaheed out there, and then once I saw that he was undergoing surgery on his meniscus, I
Yeah.
pulled those trades because that is not in good faith.
My
So
plan,
let the record show I offered him to you earlier in the week when
it's true.
his
You didn't
status
do
was
anything
not
wrong.
known. Once
You
I
didn't do
saw
anything.
that he was injured, I retracted the offer.
Part of my shtick tonight was going to
Yeah.
tell you that both of my regrets were with you, and then I was going to live reject your trade to make sure it didn't happen again.
Oh, there you go.
Hold it, which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I traded Javonte Williams in 2023
Yeah.
for Michael Mayer and a fourth round.
Oh, yeah.
I did not go look who that fourth round pick was, but I don't think it matters. Yeah, Javonte Williams.
I got the 4th round pick, or you got the 4th round pick?
No, I did get it, so I got a little bit more than just Michael Mayer, but I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters either, but I'm gonna, for the sake of this podcast, I was gonna pull it up, and I didn't even enter the 4th round this year because it was so inconsequential.
Yeah.
The 36th pick
Point
overall.
made.
Yeah, point made. Now I'm like a dog with a bone, though. I do want to find out who it is. I will say that's a bad trade, but Javante hasn't been awesome, but he's been better than that. Like that's kind of nothing
I
here.
found it here. If this is
Oh,
right,
that's Bucky Irvin.
nah, according to mine, it's Jalen Wright. Oh no, it's flip flopped. You're right. It might have been Bucky Irving. Maybe,
I feel like you won the trade.
maybe I did. Maybe I did.
Wow.
Live regret has switched to
Wow. So
joyous
I
times.
guess as history will note, the Guru has only made one bad trade in his day.
But I don't
Um,
know. I might not have all the trades. I
that's
only have the
okay.
trades that were on the site. Based on the site, I really like the other ones. And I mentioned to you on the pod. I went back. I made a trade in like 20. I think it was 2009. I
Yeah.
couldn't even tell you if it was a good trade or not. I have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. Central
Um,
was in one of the trades.
Before I reveal my number one, when I first started this exercise, I thought of a trade where I was like, that was bad. I remember I traded Robbie Lamar Jackson and he went on to win the league like immediately after I made the trade. And I was like, that was an awful trade. I went back to look. I traded Lamar Jackson for a first round pick. And with that first round pick, I drafted Jamar Chase. And I'm like, all right, that's not going to make the list. I do that trade again. Congrats on Robbie for winning the league that year. I was out of it. So it didn't really matter. But the worst trade that I could come up with, and this is kind of like a recent reveal, like you almost did there with the Bucky Irving pick, but in the 2023 preseason, so last year, another deal with Curtis. My God, he's gotten the best of me in
Oh,
two of these deals. I sent him Kenneth Walker and Terry McLaurin for Brandon Ayuk, Cam Akers, and a third round pick, which I used on Kendre Miller. So not great. I was relatively happy with that deal up until the last few weeks when Terry McLaurin has been rejuvenated with Jaden Daniels at the helm. Just explaining my process there, I was a little scared once the Seahawks drafted Zach Charbonnet in the second round. So it's kind of like, Ken Walker's not going to be as great. And I, like many others, thought that Cam Akers was going to be doing for the Rams what Kyron Williams is currently doing for the Rams. So total whiff by me on that one, even though Ayuk was awesome last year. So I felt pretty good about that deal. Like I said, up until probably 2 weeks ago.
might be a lot of work for us, but I think we're going to need to extend this segment to another pod where we actually look at other people's trades because they probably
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, I think so. I think
But
so. I did enjoy being on, at least initially, the better end of both of your bad trades until we realized your worst trade ever was actually a good trade for you.
well, I don't
Um,
know. It's hard to tell from this ranking. I do think it was Jalen Wright and not Bucky Irving, but it's hard to tell which pick was which. But we'll figure that out another time.
well, it was pick 46.
Well, I'm
Oh,
this thing.
excuse me. It was pick 36. And then you also
Oh, it
had
was
38.
okay.
So it was
I had
Bucky Irving
36
there.
and 38, so I
Yeah,
couldn't
you
tell
had
you.
36. 36 was mine. 36 was
Okay,
mine.
all
So
right, so it was. All
so
right,
good
well,
on
whatever.
you.
We're gonna do this differently next time with other people's trades. Be more fun.
Good idea by Curtis, though. How about that?
Yeah, I like that
We'll give him
idea.
a little credit there.
Yeah, good job.
Final segment tonight. We're just gonna play a little take your pick.
Yeah.
It was gonna be fill in the blank, and then it was just easier to make it take your pick. So as I look to my iPad and currently see the Mets losing 2-0 in the sixth inning. Question number one: which New York sports team has the best chance to win a championship this year? Your options. I mean, I guess if you wanted to say the Jets or the Giants, you could. But that'd be a terrible pick. Your options: the Yankees, the Mets, the Liberty, the Knicks, or the Rangers. The Rangers are the best team in New York in hockey, right?
Uh, yeah, but we're not going to talk about that.
Okay, and we're not picking the Rangers. Okay, who you
Yeah.
got? Take your pick.
Well, yeah. Well, I just first thought we would start this segment out with a quick shout out to Hoban for a cute little playoff appearance for the Phillies. Very, very cute, very sweet.
We'll
Just
get to Hoban.
come and go. Oh, just night night. It was good. It was fun. Hope you enjoyed the trip to New York. And then I second that with a little bit of pain that the list didn't include the Jets or the Islanders, but it was correct. Very tough. I think the logical answer is the Liberty, right? I mean,
Yeah, I
it's a
should check
1-1
that score. They
series.
were losing at the half tonight. They are currently
Uh,
in the WNBA finals.
yeah,
So
I mean, they're in the finals. The series is 1-1. It's only a 5-game series. Game five's at the Garden. That feels like the obvious pick, right? To
they are
go.
currently losing by two with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Game three in Minnesota, playing the
But I
Lynx, in
mean,
case
it's
you guys didn't know.
also, I mean, how do you bet against the Mets right now? I know it's 2-0 in the sixth, but my gosh, the momentum, the wave, it's so much fun to watch. They've just been riding it. But I think the logical answer is the Liberty, regardless of the current score, which obviously I answered this earlier today.
I think the Liberty is the right answer. And if I had to power rank them, I would put the Yankees number two, already being up 2-0 in the LCS.
Yeah.
Early on this season, I'm a fan of the Blue Jays, as most of you guys know. So I played close attention to the AL East. I thought this year was going to be a Yankees year. I pretty much just wanted to do this question. I had it ready to go for a podcast 2 weeks ago. It probably would have been a better question then, But I just wanted to, get a little preseason hype for my Knicks. Season starts on Tuesday. Let's get excited. Question two. Speaking of New York, which wide receiver traded to a New York team this week would you rather have, Devontae Adams or Amari Cooper? And you can answer this one way, two ways, however you want to do it. Would you rather have in fantasy or would you rather have on your NFL team?
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, one of them is now on your NFL team.
yeah. So I went with fantasy, but interesting. Like you sent this out, and I thought like it's kind of a ridiculous question. Like it's got to be Devonta Adams, and it's probably not close. And then I looked at it, and I completely changed my mind. I think it's Amari Cooper. He's 2 years younger. He's definitely got a better quarterback at the moment, and less talented options around him. Like I mean, Devonta Adams could still get the lion's share of work, but like he's got way more talent on the Jets offense to deal with than Allen does on the Bills. So I think it's Cooper.
I when I came up with this question, I thought the answer was Cooper. And I'm viewing this Devontae Adams to New York, Aaron Rodgers to New York through the eyes of a Knicks fan who saw a lot of the greatest players in the NBA come to the Knicks in like the late stages of their career when they weren't great anymore. I'm thinking of like guys like Steve Francis, Antonio McDyess, and others. Joakim Noah. I don't know. He's not one of the greatest players ever. None of those guys are, but like good players in the 2000s came to the Knicks at the tail end. Tracy McGrady, tail end of their careers. Like they all had a stint with the Knicks. They all got a paycheck. The Knicks went for the brand name rather than the player that was actually going to be good, and that's kind of how I view this Aaron Rodgers thing. Devontae Adams, I guess, still has it. People that know more about football seem to tell me that he is still an awesome receiver, but I agree with you. I think Amari Cooper with Josh Allen is going to be a way better and more productive fit fantasy wise.
And Adams came off the
Those two
hamstring.
guys both on great teams in our league. Robbie has Amari
Yeah.
Cooper and Sands has Devontae.
I think the hamstring injury is a factor too. Like, I mean, he's a receiver. If
That
he
hamstring injury went away as soon as he got traded to the Jets.
it'll come back. Every hamstring injury comes back. Like that's so. I think it's Cooper. I think it's Cooper.
Okay, I'm going Cooper too.
Yeah. So
Number three, which fill-in co-host did a better job the past 2 weeks? Your choices, obviously, Hoban or Hathaway.
I mean, I think what we learned over the last 2 weeks, Danzig, is the two of us need to be on this podcast because there was issues both weeks. Hoban and I, no, he did a great job. He reached out, he tried, I tried too. We couldn't figure out the video. It was a disaster. Um, then Hathaway comes in and there was a lot of mistakes in the and by the way, in the first, and go back to Hoban, we made a ton of obvious mistakes that you immediately corrected
Yeah.
on this with the Stanzik spreadsheet. Then Hathaway comes in. There's mistakes left and right on the Fairfield couple list. By the way, in case anyone doesn't know, there actually is a term for this. They're called stagmates. This is
Oh,
from Fairfield. They send out I don't know how frequently, but we get mail from them because we are stagmates and we get invited to these
wait,
stag.
there was like specific events
Yes,
that you and MT could attend
yes.
because you both went to Fairfield and got married. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, it is called Stagmates, and they send it out, and it's got a label, and it's like, come to do the Stagmates meetup at whatever. I mean, they're always in Connecticut, so we can't go, but it is a thing. It's an actual thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, credit to you on the power rankings. So whenever there's a Fairfield oriented segment, I run it by MT because she gets a kick out of all those,
Of course.
obviously. So
We're
I
trying to
told
grow
her,
the audience. We have
so
an audience of like 8. We're trying to get
yeah,
it to, double digits would
exactly.
be nice.
It's a great move. It's a great move.
Yeah.
So I told her, I said, hey, Stanzik on the pod this week when I was gone, he power ranked Fairfield couples top 5. She said, I hope we were on there. And I said, we were,
Of course.
we weren't number, do you want to guess, what it was? And she goes, well, I assume one was Burge and Howe. So I was like, perfect.
Nailed it.
So
There you
I was
go.
like, we were too. So I was excited. So she agreed with you. She came out with it proactively. So power rankings were,
I love it.
but I
I
think
love
the
it.
answer is we need both of us on. It was a disaster either way.
So you chose no one.
I chose no one. I
That's
chose
smart by
no
you.
one.
You did text me a good tidbit on the Fairfield couples while we're on that topic. You
Yeah,
told me
yeah,
that
let's do
Rory
it.
Duyan and Bobby Morales no longer speak,
Yeah, so I
and
don't.
just because the wives had an argument or a falling out or
Yeah,
something.
I don't know what the actual thing was, but the wives, again, they're both, like you said, they're both Fairfield couples. So both wives, they were like best friends in college.
Rory's
Both
wife, who no one remembers her name, I even made a
or
joke about that on the podcast, and then in your email, you're like, "Yeah, no one knows her name." I'm like, "Yeah, I mentioned that.
Amanda
That was
was
part of my shtick."
I don't remember what her last name was, but it was
Yeah,
Amanda.
yeah.
But
Mets are down 4-0 now, by the way.
I'm glad I'm not watching at the moment.
Yeah.
So Bobby and Rory obviously best friends. These two were also best friends. That's how they all kind of met. They were all in the same grades. And yeah, something happened. Huge blowout fight. And nobody talks to each other anymore.
We need more info. If anyone
Yeah,
is in
I don't have
contact
that.
with Bobby or Rory and can gently get that information, please circle back with your favorite podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go with my guy Hathaway. You guys couldn't figure out video. Better
Yeah.
job by Hathaway. Brought some actual info, brought some knowledge, brought a little spice.
Some college
I pick
football knowledge from
Hathaway.
Hathaway. It's
Screw
helpful.
Hoban, and we'll obviously probably have those guys on as the season continues. This podcast was obviously going to be just you and I. We had to get the band back together here. Question 4. Speaking of Fairfield people, which former league member? I think we do this question every year, but I like it. Which former league member would you most like to see rejoin the league? Your options, of course: Glancy, Burge, Tyler, Max, Dwyer.
All right. I went ahead and power ranked these for you.
Wow.
So I'm going 5-1.
Five
So
to one. Okay. I'm
least
going to try to do a
votes.
5-1 currently as you do this and see if mine
All
is the
right. All
same.
right. So I'm going least like to see rejoin all the way to most like to see rejoin. So least I put Tyler. I mean, I love Tyler. Tyler's a great guy, but I don't remember him bringing much to the table in terms of like lots of trades or banter or whatever. So I went with Tyler at 5. Just barely sneaking under him. I think it was pretty close. Was Max. The only reason I had Max higher than Tyler, he traded me Drew Brees. Speaking of looking back at terrible trades, awful trade for Max. Great trade for me, pretty much won me my title. So I'd rather see him come back than Tyler. Maybe I could steal another franchise quarterback off Max. Number 3 for me, Bill Dwyer. Absolutely hilarious addition off the field. Truly terrible at fantasy. I think at one point the commish just took over the team because he couldn't take it anymore.
Well, I was going to get into that in the
Over
in the
the
worst trades conversation we had, but I didn't want to divulge too much as to the things I did to try to prop up his team. So we'll just keep it moving after that.
Yeah, so Dwyer number 3, just because we like the off-field stuff. And by the way, with the pod, he'd be great on the pod, so I
Yeah,
put him at 3. Number 2 is Clancy. I wrote, does he still owe money? Maybe. I don't know. We should probably check the
late
archives.
fees.
Still owe money, some Clance fees. He made a pod appearance already without being in the
It's
league.
true.
So huge bonus points. And it seemed like we don't talk about other leagues, but he came on and talked about other leagues, and it seemed like he was taking stuff kind of seriously.
I think he
So
wants to get back in. He hasn't
get back
explicitly
in.
mentioned it, but I think of the five, he'd be the one most likely to rejoin.
For me, number 1 was Burge, and the reason
Yeah.
for that is every week he was texting me how stressed out he was. It was absolutely hilarious getting the back and forth from him. I mean, he was literally panicked about fantasy football the way I've never seen anybody panic before. And I missed those back and forths on Sundays with Bird. So he's my number 1.
That's that. I'm gonna try to do a quick power rankings right now. I have them in order, and we could not be further apart here. I
Okay.
have Max number 5. I don't think he cares about the NFL outside of the Jets. Love Max, but he's an easy number 5 for me. I got Dwyer 4, great personality, but very minimal knowledge. And he did win the regular season one year, which I think was fluky. I think it was like 9-6 and or one of those. And there's a couple teams tied, and he edged somebody out. Number 3 for me is Burge. I don't think maybe he'd do it again. Who knows? Personality there for sure. He'd be good on the pod. I got Glance at number 2. So question the commitment. He's already been on the pod. I think you're really selling Tyler short. I don't know if you got the best intro to Tyler. That was pre Navy SEAL Tyler. His personality's always been awesome. I think he'd be hilarious on the pod. I think he'd be hilarious on the text chain. I think he, I don't, I quit. Maybe I have him a little too high, but based on the football knowledge and where he'd be in terms of adding to the league that way. But I got him for number 1 just for bringing that kind of personality and spicing things up. And he played baseball with a lot of, I guess Glance did too, but he played baseball with a lot of the guys in this league. So I think there'd be some good relationships he could lean into there. Last question for you. We kind of lean on the schedule a little bit here to wrap things up as we look ahead to next week. So what is we're playing Take Your Pick if you guys forgot. What's the best week 7 matchup on the board? Take your pick. I'll read them to you quickly. It is me against Walsh. It is you against Hoban. It is Zans against Hathaway. Robbie against Steve. That's the best matchup by record, 4-2 against 4-2, and Kess against Pete. What do you
Yeah.
got? Best matchup on the board.
Yeah, so maybe it's obvious based on what you just said, but I did go with Robbie and Steve. I feel like that's a big swing matchup. Robbie just lost a tough one to Walsh in the sense that Walsh put up a monster week. And Robbie, like you said, is he slipping? Is he not? Is Curtis going to step up here? I mean, Curtis steps up here and wins this matchup. He's back in that contention, and we don't look as stupid on that week 1 pod when we sang his praises and then he threw up the dud. So I think that is the marquee matchup this week. If I was going to pick a second, it would be you and Walsh. Just because you're 3-3, that's a big swing week, and Walsh is 5-1, still trying to keep that
My team
established.
is oddly favored in that matchup. I can't seem to figure out why, but
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that. I mean, barely, but
yeah,
oh, actually, no, it's a little more than I thought. It's 5 points. It's more than 5 points.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yahoo
I would
seems to
go. I
like
would
my
go
team
Robbie Steve.
more. Yeah, you'd go Robbie. Okay, yeah, I think that's the obvious pick.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go from a strictly pod perspective. I'm gonna go with you and Hoban because if Hoban wins, he's probably coming on the pod next week. I think that's what I'm looking at in terms of
Not to
excitement.
lose for me. I feel like he
Yeah,
should start two tight ends too, just to stick it to me.
yeah, I think so. I think, and we could do some tooling with his roster, but I think he needs another appearance, preferably one on video to show those locks to the audience to up our views. We need something working in our favor. But that'll do it for us, Guru. Thanks as always for doing this.
Good to be back. Thanks, Stance.
Love it, everybody. Thank you for watching, all 8 of you. Show it to as many people as you can, and good luck to everybody in week 7.